I finally have some answers to your questions about our 80-year-old crafter from our viral unbinning series, including a little secret about our favorite tomato, Bob. My name is Stephanie. I own a secondhand art and craft supply shop in Tampa Bay, Florida called Bottom of the Bin. You can trade in your leftover art and craft supplies to get store credit. That way we can keep our prices affordable and are accessible for those in our community. Well, recently we made an exception and we bought an 80-year-old lady's entire craft supply collection. It spanned over 5 rooms of her house, and we've been doing this unbinning series where we open a new bin in every video. We're currently halfway through and there's over 50 bins in total. A lot of you, including myself, have had questions for our legacy crafter, and I finally was able to catch up with her to get some answers. So we weren't able to get a recorded interview, but I did have a phone call and I asked her some of our burning questions. But we'll start off with some of the basics, like how did we even meet? So as a business owner, especially a woman-owned business, I do a lot of networking with other businesses, and I'm in this really, really cool local group for girl bosses. And when we first opened our store, I went and posted about us, and it went viral overnight. Now, when I say viral, not as viral as this unbinning series, but what you would consider viral in a local community group. And people were just going crazy, spreading the word about us. And from literally the month that we opened, it's been incredible, like an incredible outpouring of love and support from our community. So as time went on, a lot of people just got to know me as that crafting lady or that craft supply lady. And someone reached out because from what I understand, because I don't know like the full story, but from what I understand, this person found me in the group. She owns an estate sale company, I believe, and she was contacted by the legacy crafter, we'll call her for privacy, her realtor, to sell all of the art and craft supplies that she had accumulated in her home before they could proceed with putting the house on the market. So from my understanding, they were told that like this would have to be a series of estate sales. It wouldn't just be like one, let's get rid of everything at one time. So it was going to be sort of like a long drawn out process. And if you've ever sold anything on the secondhand market, you know how hard it is. People really pick things apart. They're not going to get the full value of what it's worth. And it's probably going to take a long time to get through it all. So she was like, hey, I need to put you in contact with this craft supply lady. I remember her from the group that I'm in. Maybe she can help you guys out. And then that's when she called me and put me in touch with the realtor. And I kept reiterating to her that like, we don't purchase supplies. The whole point of our store is for people to trade stuff in for store credit. We're not in the position to purchase supplies, and it's just not really what we do. And she insisted that I meet the legacy crafter, whether we purchased it or not. She wanted us to see how incredible the collection was, how meticulously organized it was. She kept saying it was enough to open a whole store, and she was right. And she said, if anything else, at least come meet her. She didn't think I would regret it. And then I could maybe be like a contact to get her in touch with the right people who could help her. So she definitely convinced me to go take a look. So basically, even though I was like super busy, I really didn't have time to go look at this collection. Something in my gut just told me to go and meet her. And I'm really, really glad I did. I was supposed to meet her on a Saturday, I believe it was, just to kind of see the collection and go from there. And I ended up getting there a little bit before the realtor did. So the legacy crafter and I sat down and just started chatting. Literally the second I walked into her house, I noticed her kitty cat, and I am such a cat lover. Like my cats are my children. Like that's not any stretch of the imagination. I don't plan on having kids ever. My cats are just everything to me. So every time I meet someone who's a cat lover as well, we instantly bond over that. She was like, don't you want to see the collection? And I was like, no, I want to see the cat. So this cat was chunky, you all. This was one of the biggest cats I've ever seen. She was so adorable, so sweet. She was immediately rubbing on me, rubbing on my purse, trying to get to know me. And so I sat and pet her while the crafter and I spoke. But immediately from the corner of my eye, I could see this bookshelf just laid out right in the middle of the living room. And it was just bin after bin after bin of stamps. It looked like, I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but there was like little pieces of paper sticking out, and it would say different categories like mermaids or animals. And that's kind of what drew my eye at the beginning. And I was like, okay, this is something I'm really going to want to dig into and see a bit better, but I want to get to know her a bit first, and kind of wait for the realtor to come, because she wanted to sort of facilitate the deal just to make sure that she wasn't taken advantage of. And of course, it's always good to have a third party there just to make sure that, just to kind of have someone else there just in case. So through just chit-chatting, we really felt It's hard to explain, but we felt like this instant connection. Like we knew each other, like we were meant to meet, like someone in heaven arranged for this to happen. It felt like a longtime friend. And of course, this is someone I've never met before in my life. So we bonded over the cat. We bonded over crafting. She told me she likes card making, which is my favorite hobby. So we were talking about our favorite paper companies and our favorite stamp companies. And there was just so much love exuding from her. I can't even really explain it other than she felt like maybe a mother or a grandmother, like the way she was talking to me, like if she was my own mother or grandmother. And I'm probably going to refer to my mom a lot throughout this because she has passed away many years ago now. But my mom was like one of the most loving, incredible people ever. She was my number one fan, my biggest supporter, and just always, always, always had my back. And so when I meet someone that's just really kind and loving and sort of like exudes that warmth, I think of her. And I really, really got those vibes almost immediately. Just like the way we were talking and the things we were connecting over, it was really emotional. Like we kept getting goosebumps. We had so many things in common and so many similar interests. And both of us really felt, again, that we were like meant to meet each other, that someone in heaven had arranged this meeting so that I would be able to look at her supplies and, work something out with her. Hey, it's Stephanie editing, just interjecting. I'm actually crying as I'm listening back to this because I don't think I really formulated properly what I was trying to say. And I don't know if I still can, but when I met her and when she was talking to me like as if she was my mother talking to me. And just like the way she was looking at me and like she would wink at me sometimes when I looked over at her, I felt like it was my mom, like embracing me and like saying hi. And when she kept saying she had goosebumps and she felt like someone in heaven arranged this, like I immediately knew it was my mom. And I'll talk about this like later in the video, but when we reconnected again for this phone call, she kept telling me how proud of me she was and how she's just like so excited to see the business that I've built and how much I've accomplished and how far our reach has been. And just that she was really, really proud of me. She really kept reiterating that she wanted me to know how proud of me she was. And now that I'm thinking back on it, I feel like that was my mom talking to me through her. So yeah, I just, I wanted to just like interject and tell you, hopefully a little bit more cohesively how I feel, because I really, really feel like this woman was meant to come into my life and we're going to be lifelong friends. And I'm so grateful. And okay, I'll continue with the story. Back to the video. So after we chatted for a bit, she started to show me around, starting off with like the stamps and her paper collection. So she had a bunch of paper laid out on the floor in boxes, and this was just like solid color cardstock. I can't remember the name of the company. We've talked about it in the unbinnings before, but she was telling me how they had like a certain size that was hard to get a hold of, and she was just saying like really great things about them and how I would really, really love this cardstock. And I don't remember exactly which point the realtor came, but she did end up coming after like we already started going through like the very, very basics of the supplies that were in the living room. And she was excited that like we hit it off already and we're already talking about things. So then we went and looked at the stuff on the dining room table, and this was a bunch of like metal dies and paper crafting supplies. And there was so much. It was kind of hard to see exactly what was in there. Then she led me to another room and another room and another room, just full of anything you can imagine. There was a crafting room. There were like these big metal shelving with all of these different shoe boxes and organizers and just anything that you could wish for. I could see ink, I could see stamps, I could see jewelry making supplies. I mean, it was quite a collection. There was paint and wood pieces and florals, and I was kind of overwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely more than I thought there was gonna be, and every time we like dug into a new area, I would see more and more. And so obviously, the topic of price came up, and I didn't want to be the first one to throw out the number. So long story short, we ended up agreeing on a number that was halfway between what she threw out first and what I was comfortable at. And although I don't want to like get into the specifics, I will say that it was a pretty fair deal for both of us. So we ended up making arrangements. I was going to come back a few days later with my staff and a U-Haul and a bunch of bins to pack everything up. And I was just so excited. I couldn't wait to come back. I couldn't wait to see her again. And obviously I couldn't wait to bring all of these supplies back to my store. So the day that we came to pack everything up, the staff and friends that I brought to help me actually ended up really connecting with our legacy crafter as well. They all kind of found like a little personal story to share, or, commonality that they had, or place that they were from, or craft that they did that just made them bond, and it just really reassured her that like her stuff was going to the right place, to the right home. So after we packed everything up and said our goodbyes, it was really bittersweet. We promised to stay in touch and remain friends, and I told her I would send her a card every month, which I have sent her one this month, which brings me to the next question. How was I able to get an answer to our question? So she has been watching. She did watch that video in particular, and then when she got the card, she wanted to call me and thank me for sending it and keeping in touch. And so since I had her on the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a few questions. Is it okay if I ask them? And she was so happy to answer them for you all. So the first thing she wanted to tell me was that she was just so proud of me and seeing the scope of my business and the reach, and not just from her series, which obviously has been making so many people happy watching the unbinnings, but she said she saw some interviews I had done, and I told her about some of the news stations that we were featured on, and she kept just telling me like how proud she was of me and how she admired my business sense, and she was so happy to see like our reach and how many people that we communicate with and talk to that aren't just local here in Tampa Bay. Obviously, it felt really good hearing that from her, and it like really is incredible, this community that we've been building. Like for me, it's always been about building a community. I never wanted to just open a store to sell supplies. It was really important for me to meet people, meet other crafters, craft together, which is why we have our social events. And I always wanted this sort of like social media component of it where we're crafting together, making videos, and now unbinning art supplies and craft supplies. And so for her to see that and like really understand what I do and how hard I work, it just really, really meant a lot. Again, like having that sort of love and warmth that my mom had given me all these years before she passed was coming from her in sort of like the same way. Like my mom was my, as I said earlier, like my number one fan, my biggest cheerleader. She actually wrote me a letter that I treasure to this day when I had decided to quit my corporate job and start my own business. This was a thrift store that I used to own, a clothing store. And my mom told me that like when one door closes, another one opens, and that I'm a smart, successful person with a loving family behind my back. And it doesn't matter what I do, what I put my mind to, I will always be successful. And that she was really proud of me, and she knew that I would be building my own empire one day. So to have our wonderful legacy crafter call and tell me that she sees this, like she sees this business that I'm building, this legacy that I'm building, this empire that I'm building, which is tiny right now, but I hope for it to be bigger soon. It really meant a lot. Like I felt very, very loved and appreciated. And I'm really glad she's watching the videos and that she enjoyed the card I sent her. I do plan to make like a more elaborate one. I just kind of made some flat ones to send out with my patron cards this month. And I was kind of rushed on time, so we'll make her like something a little bit nicer, hopefully for the next month. I'm looking at the date. I will try. Which, by the way, we do have a Patreon. There is a link in the description if you want to check that out. There is a monthly tier that includes a greeting card that I create and send to you every month. Okay, so she addressed one of like the biggest controversies around the series, which is me calling her an 80-year-old lady, which, by the way, she's totally fine with, except she has one gripe, and that is that, shocker, she is not 80 years old. I was introduced to her as being 80 years old. She told me she was 80 years old. However, she is 79 and will be 80 this summer. So we'll have to send her a very special birthday card. And I'm totally not changing the name of the series to a 79-year-old lady's collection of craft supplies. But she did want you all to know that, of course, she is more than just an 80-year-old lady, which we all know. She's way, way more than that. She is a legacy. Like this is seriously one of the best collections I've ever seen. And we've already started to get like a little tidbit of a look into some of the stuff that she created. And it's obviously she's much, much more than her age. It's just a little hook that I use to capture people's attention. So I hope nobody really takes offense to that. Obviously she doesn't. It's just a description meant to catch attention. I obviously value her and appreciate her much, much more than anything about her age. I'm looking down at my phone because I wrote down what she said so that I got it right. The next question was, what was her favorite thing to craft? Now this one shocked me because I thought it was card making and jewelry making because of like all the jewelry supplies she had like, I could tell more of like a sentimental attachment to some of those. And obviously we connected over the greeting cards, and she has a lot of stamps and metal dies. So I thought that was like a big, big part of what she loved to do. But she surprised me and told me that it's actually coloring, specifically with colored pencils, which is probably why we haven't seen a lot of those. We've definitely gone through a lot of different markers. So I kind of should have known that she liked to color, especially because we found some coloring books of Bible verses, which was her favorite thing to color. So what she would do is buy those Bible verse books. She would scan them into her computer and then print them out so that she could color the same page over and over again as many times as she wanted. In fact, she said she had made one for her daughter and was hoping to make a ton more. I thought that was really cool and really sweet, and like, what a great idea. What a great tip, like, to get a coloring book that you like, copy it, and then that way you could just have unlimited coloring pages. I did not ask her her favorite brand of colored pencils. In hindsight, I wish I did, but I didn't want to bombard her with more questions than I already had for her. The next question was, did she own a store and did she sell the things that she made? And the simple answer is no. For her, it was really just a fun hobby, and it was a way for her to like socialize and meet people, which I'll get into, but she didn't really have like the business knowledge to do so, although she said if she had my sort of business sense and knowledge, she might have tried to make a store of her own. Which brings me to the next question. How the heck did she accumulate so many art and craft supplies? So apparently she had like a friend of crafters, like she was part of a crafting group, and they would all meet at one lady's home, and there they would just kind of show each other what they were working on, introduce each other to new supplies and hobbies, and that just kind of spiraled into them wanting to try everything and buying so many things. So you can clearly see that she had very, very many interests. And in fact, a few of those ladies came to my store recently. They surprised me. I didn't even know they were coming, but when I was ringing them out at the register, they told me that they were her friends and that they were coming to see her collection, because obviously we're putting out the bin of the day now. So we have a special table that the day after the video goes out, the items of that bin are on display for sale for the following 2 days, so you don't have to dig around the store everywhere to look for them. And then from there, they get filtered into the store into the right category, like the right section of the store, or they get put on eBay, or they get put into storage till we have room for them. So they were very excited to come check out her collection, say hello to me, and tell me that they were the ones who crafted with her all this time. And they called themselves the enablers, like the reason why she accumulated so many supplies. And they've definitely acquired big collections of their own. They turned me on to something called brushos, which I still need to research a bit more, but from what I could tell, I looked it up. It's like a sort of powder, and then you spray it with water and it kind of like expands and makes really pretty colors, and you can blend them together. So I don't need another new hobby. As you can see from behind me, I have a lot, but yeah, I definitely want to check out those brush shows. And speaking of my collection, it's, you know, it's a little bit organized. You guys obviously see what's on display for my filming. The rest of the stuff in the bins, like the little fabric bins, they're not necessarily sorted. Like, they're sorted by what they are. So there's one that has like paper, and there's one that has dies, and one that has stamps. But that's kind of it. Like, they're hard to dig through, they're hard to see. So I do plan on doing some more organization videos and breaking my collection down further, maybe even labeling them now. So stay tuned for that. And that brings us to our next question, which is, how did she get so organized? This answer was unexpected as well. She said literally it's due to her bad memory. So she said as her collection grew, she would literally forget what she had, where things were. And so she started to make labels to cut down the time that she spent looking for her things. And her biggest piece of advice to anyone wanting to get as organized as her is to make sure that you can read what you write. Now, I have really messy handwriting, so I don't know if she does, but her solution was to use a computer to make the labels. So I don't even know if she had a label maker. I'm assuming from that conversation that she typed in the computer, like, you know, mermaid stamps, and then printed that out and cut it out and then stuck it onto the bin. So that's kind of neat, totally unexpected. A lot of people thought maybe she had like a professional organizer helper or something like that. But yeah, it was just due to her not being able to find things, having a self-admitted bad memory. And so she created this system to be able to find what she wanted when she wanted. And on that subject, she wanted me to tell you all that she is not a messy crafter at all. I know that some of the bins are pure chaos and there's just stuff thrown in there and all over the place. And that is due to me and my staff when we pack things. We had bought like these giant clear bins that you see me unbinning, and I had bought like 50 of them or close to 50 of them, and it wasn't enough. So towards the end, when we saw that we were running out of bins, we would just grab random boxes, grab random things from the shelves and from the tables, and just stuff the bins as much as we could so that we could maximize the space that we had. So that was no fault of hers. Obviously, as you can see, her collection was meticulously organized. So the messy bins are because of me, not because of her. The next question is, she sad that she had to let her collection go. Obviously, I've been saying it's been very bittersweet. So she did sell her collection in order to sell her home so she could move with family and be closer to them. And she just couldn't take it all. I mean, there was way too much stuff. There's nowhere really to put it, especially when you're moving in with someone else. So she said that although she didn't want to actually let the collection go, now she's starting to see the light that maybe she did have too much for her to ever be able to use. But I asked her if she would have kept it if she could, and she said, yeah, she would have. So again, really bittersweet. I can completely understand and relate to this, just not having, you know, the room or the space for everything that you want, which is one of the reasons I opened my store. I love crafting, but I also got really into Lego for a while, and there just wasn't room for my Lego collection and my crafting collection. So I started selling off some of the things I didn't use as much, and then had the idea to open the store, which ended up working perfectly because I was able to have my studio there and move my craft supplies there and kind of regain my living room at home and make space for my Lego. So I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. And I feel like there's like a really good piece of advice here, like a good takeaway from here, which is that if you have a collection this big, or even not, like if you have a smaller collection, there's probably no way that you'll actually use every single item that you have. And if you're anything like me, I like save the good stuff, right? Some of it's too good to use. I might need it for a special occasion. And so a lot of my favorite things end up going untouched. And I really don't want to look back one day and be like, wow, I should have used those paper flowers when I wanted to use them. I should have used those stickers when I wanted to use them. I should have not worried about, you know, using my markers or, you know, drying out my ink pads or, you know, squeezing out all the pearl dots out of their bottles. So my takeaway from all of this is use the good stuff. Don't feel guilty about it. Use your favorite things and you could always get more. And our final question, the one we've all been waiting for, where the heck did Bob come from? So if you watch the very, very first unbinning, I found Bob in the first bin. I thought he was a pincushion. He is plastic. He is not a pincushion. And I didn't know his name was Bob. I just called him the tomato or whatever I said. And everyone in the comments was going, that's Bob. Don't you know Bob? That's Bob from VeggieTales. And so I didn't really think anything of it. In fact, I think someone told me he was called Larry. So for a bit, I thought his name was Larry, not even Bob. And I just kind of like set him aside. And since then, Bob's been mysteriously popping up in all the bins. I don't know how. I don't know where he comes from. I don't know how he does it, but he duplicates, he clones himself, something. He appears in the bins and then disappears at night and appears in the next bin. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So this also surprised me because I figured, you know, he's not a craft supply. Most everything we saw is an art or craft supply. So where did he come from? Apparently she does not know. Yes, she knows his name is Bob. Yes, she knows he's from VeggieTales, but she doesn't know where this actual toy came from. So she said she's familiar with him in the cartoon series VeggieTales, and her grandchildren love the show. So all we can deduce is that it must have been one of their toys. But you know, Bob's a big part of our family now. And one of you pointed out, like, I don't know, after bin 10 or 15 or something, that Bob stands for B-O-B, bottom of bin, bottom of the bin. I honestly didn't even put that together. I didn't name him, obviously. That was just a super weird coincidence. And that means he's going to be around for a long, long time. Some of you keep trying to buy Bob. He's not for sale. He's mine. Sorry. So that brings us to the end of the Q&A. Thank you all so much for the incredible amount of love and support. I'm still absolutely blown away of how the series has taken off, how many comments I'm getting of people, first of all, saying how much they love Bob, how they look forward to seeing him in all the bins, and just appreciating this collection, right? Like appreciating how organized it was, the array of different types of supplies and projects that you could do with them. And most importantly, the people have been commenting and helping me out because I see a lot of things that I've never seen before. I don't know how they're used, or I don't know that they have multiple uses. So your comments telling me that you like the series and how to use things and what they are and what they're used for just has opened up a whole new world for me and has brought like a whole new level of inspiration. And I'm just so excited to be able to use some of this stuff. Obviously, I've been really busy with the unbinning series. I try to sneak in a few crafting videos here and there where I can. So make sure to follow or subscribe so that you don't miss those, because I do plan on doing those. I do plan on the organization videos, and I do plan on another unbinning series once this one is over. So I will leave you with that. Thank you again for all of the incredible love and support. You guys are amazing. I'm so happy to be building this community. I'm so happy to be making new friends all over the freaking world. So everyone, please comment below and let me know, first of all, your favorite item that we've unbinned so far. And second of all, let's give lots of love to our incredible legacy crafter who has inspired so many people, spread so much love and joy all over the world, literally, and has introduced all of us to so many new things or reintroduced us to things that we haven't seen in a long time. And of course, made me appreciate what I have and reminded me to use the things that I love. And I can't wait to see you in the next unbinning.